Hi, I'm Brian Ferguson. I'm the Portfolio Manager of the Timber Trades section at Balga campus of Polytechnic West. We're here in Glazing, where we're going to have a look at how we're able to achieve some savings and sustainability in the glazing area. This is an example of some of the donations that we've received. It's glass balustrading, comprising aluminium frame and the glass itself. Glass for balustrading is not your normal glass. It's far more expensive to produce. This may have been an error or additional manufacturing that's taken place in industry that wasn't required. The company's asked if we can use it. Well, we teach the kids the processes and principles of balustrading, and we've received this as a donation. The students pull it apart, put it back together, see how it's all done, and learn how to replace glass in accordance with the Australian standards. Glazing also makes a use of a lot of aluminium. We work with aluminium companies. We do purchase a lot of aluminium, but we also receive donations. For example, a job that once again may have gone wrong out on site, the aluminium's got a few holes in it. They've been drilled for manufacturing some other project. It's no use to industry because the finished product has to be first class, but for us, we just chop it and cut it and drill it and profile it, and then we recycle it ultimately back to the aluminium recyclers. Project work forms a large part of the student training. Showers are part of that work that they have to do. When we do the showers, we usually start with something that's full size. Then we cut it down a little bit for the second student, then the third student will cut it down a little bit again. This allows us to use the aluminium as many times as we can before we scrap it in the recycling bin. This is the ultimate outcome for all the glass that we use in training. It's broken down and disposed of in landfill currently, but when recycling facilities are available, it will go to recycling. As you can see, if we had to purchase all this glass, there would be a fairly sizable carbon cost involved. And with our practices with the student projects, cutting large projects down to smaller projects, we've managed to reduce the total amount of glass that we send out to landfill. In that same process with downsizing the student projects, we're able to economise with aluminium. The aluminium that we throw out is generally small offcuts off of sections where we rework the project to a smaller size. We're here in the carpentry area, and I want to show you how we manage our timber supplies here in a sustainable way. Part of the student projects require them to assemble walls and roofs. Wherever possible, we recycle the materials after the student projects have been completed. When the next block of students come in to make the same project, what we tend to do is take the recycled materials from the last lot of students that came in, and we'll cut and fit them wherever possible to maximise the use of material, rather than knock the timber frames apart and throw them in the bin. Additionally, when it comes to roofing, part of the roofing material that part of the process that's required for roofing is to cut the bird's mouth in the timber, which will allow the timber to sit nicely on the brick wall. We attach a sacrificial piece of material to allow the students to cut that bird's mouth. When the next student does the same job, we remove those two pieces, attach another piece, and repeat the process. So for as long as possible, we maintain the full lengths of material. Only when they become tacky and unusable, we put them in our recycling shelf for cutting down for the smaller pieces in the next framing project. Another strategy that we adopt here in the timber trades carpentry area to conserve materials is applied in our cladding module. We attach some sacrificial pieces of timber to the timber frames so that the students can repeatedly clad the wall with wallboard materials, which ultimately destroys the sacrificial piece of timber. We then remove that and replace it with another one, and by doing this we're able to preserve the wall frames and minimise our waste. Another aspect to the carpentry training is the internal fit out, where the students have to learn to fit out the house, hang the doors. And for example, what we've got here is a solid core door, which is substantially smaller than the door frame. The door frame is the normal size, so the students are working on real live full-size projects. The purpose of reducing the size of the door, though, is to assist with our sustainability and minimising waste here in the carpentry department. What we do is we get the students to put a timber bead on the door, and where the handle goes they insert a block. That will make the door larger than the door frame, and the student then has to fit that door to the frame. On completion of fitting the door, they also have to cut and fit the handle. This is all part of the training that's required, which would ultimately mean we'd have to buy a door for every student that has to do this. By doing this, we're able to make several doors last for quite a while. In this case, these doors are about 4 years old, and around about 50 or 60 students a year are fitting these doors. Ultimately, when our timber frames have reached their use-by date, we pull those apart and use the reusable materials in student projects, such as these trestles here. Each of the students will make themselves a trestle, and practice timber joints. Each of the students are required to cut some timber joints, and we'll even use the smaller pieces up here before it's disposed of in the waste bin. We're here in the polish shop attached to the furniture making unit to have a look at how we minimise wastage in the polish shop. The polish shop uses many substances, polish, varnish, single packs, 2 packs, thinners, terps, methylated spirit, and at the end of the day there's a substantial quantity of liquid waste to be disposed of. This turbinaire is a low temperature oven, and we place our liquid to be disposed of in one side of the oven where we have solid waste remaining, and we run the oven overnight. The next day we're able to come in and recover some of that liquid waste in the form of a usable thinners. That thinners is then used in part of our daily maintenance requirement, where the students have to clean spray guns, brushes, and all the different tools and equipment that they use.